Hey everyone, so let's get right into this, shall we? In this video, I'll be transforming this old, rusty, dusty, and crusty wig that I've had for quite some time now. And you know what? It shows, like it really shows. So I'll be using a mixing bowl, two bleaching kits that I got like at a random store that sells hair stuff. I'll be using two INECTO Burgundy box dyes and some gloves, which are very important. I did change the closure of the wig and I bleached the knots. So I start by adding bleach to the mixing bowl and adding the developer as well, and then just mixing that all together. So this bleaching kit was actually very strong, and it had a very strong smell too. So it's important to do this process in a very well ventilated area because wow. So I mix the two together and try to mix them until there is a homogeneous mixture. And I start by bleaching the closure, and I do this in sections. So I sectioned the closure into parts of 4, and I bleach the hair from the tip all the way up to just before the root of the closure. I wasn't really specific with how I was doing this process because at the end of the day, the hair is going to be dyed. So I was just making sure that the hair color lifts so that I am able to dye the hair properly. And then using a comb, I just comb out all of those hairs just to make sure that the bleach is on every strand of the hair or most strands of the hair. This really isn't important if you're going to color your hair at the end. It's important if you want to make your wig blonde, then yes, it's very important to make sure that every strand of the hair is covered in bleach. However, with coloring the hair, this really doesn't matter that much. So as you can see, the hair color was already lifting, and I think this was like 5 minutes into me bleaching the hair. So yeah, this bleaching kit was very strong, but you can use any bleaching kit, it doesn't really matter really. And now moving on to the rest of the hair, I'm doing the very same thing, sectioning the hair into smaller sections and then adding bleach from the tips all the way up to just before the root. So at this point, because my closure was already lifted and I was very scared that I might damage the hair on the closure, I did go and rinse the bleach out just to make sure that I don't damage the hair on my closure. So I went and washed it out and then continued with the rest of the hair. So at this point, like my bleach was almost done, and this was at the back of the hair, so I wasn't too worried. But I would say that instead of 2 bleaching kits, it would have been better to get 3 just to make sure that the bleaching process goes well. But anyway, I did just wing it, and yeah, it worked out in the end. And then as you can see, most of the hair on the wig has lifted, and this is like the color that you do want if you are going to be coloring your hair or dyeing your hair to a different color. So I went ahead and washed the wig with some shampoo. I didn't tone the hair because I am going to dye it. I washed the bleach out and then left it to air dry for about 2 hours before coloring or dyeing the wig. So I'm adding the content of the tube into the mixing bowl. So this is, I think, is the coloring part, or it's the color mix or something like that, but this is basically the hair color. And then I added the developer. So the instructions are on the leaflet. It's very, very simple. It's a very simple process, and I think like anyone can do it. So just make sure that you use everything from the tube into the mixing bowl, as well as the developer as well. Add all of the developer into the mixing bowl and mix the two. So you need to mix everything together until there's like a homogeneous consistency. It's very important to make sure that all of the hair color and all of the developer is mixed. So you will see that the color turns to this purple color, and yeah, that's the consistency that it should be as well. So then I'm repeating the very same process that I did when bleaching the hair, starting with the closure in smaller sections. I am going to color or add dye from the tip all the way up to the root. But yeah, it's important to be very specific because this is like the final process of you coloring your hair, and you want to make sure that it is done correctly and properly. So I did comb the hair out before adding the dye to the hair. This is just to make sure that every strand of hair is going to have some color on it, because it would be very, very awful if some of your hair is blonde and some of your hair is a different color. Like, that's not going to be nice at all. So repeating the very same thing that I did, I start at the tip of the hair and work my way up to the root of the closure, and then I comb the hair through again. This is also just to make sure that every strand of the hair is covered in dye. So one mistake that I made was leaving only a small portion of the roots being black. This actually caused a lot of problems for me because I did end up having some dye on the lace as well. So the lace of this hair is like red right now, but I think after a few washes it would be okay again. So I would suggest that if you are going to color your hair yourself, leave much more root space being black instead of like the small space that I left. So now that the closure is dyed, I move on to the rest of the hair and basically repeating the exact same process, sectioning the hair into smaller pieces, combing the hair through, and making sure that I do add dye from the tip of the hair and work my way up all the way to the root, and combing the hair through once more just to make sure that every strand of the hair is covered in dye. So I did use the burgundy dyes here, but then I wasn't very satisfied with how the hair turned out in the end. Like, it gave me a very, very bright red or burgundy color, and like, it really wasn't the color I wanted. I did want a cherry burgundy, a dark burgundy color. So a couple of days later, after dyeing this hair, I did go ahead and dye it using some plum. I think the color is called cherry plum from INECTO, and I mixed this with burgundy and basically repeated the same steps to achieve that darker burgundy color that I initially wanted. So yeah, I did dye this hair again later on because I wasn't really satisfied with the color that the hair was giving me. And as you can see there, the closure was colored a bit because I was handling the closure while I had like dye on my gloves. So it was just a mess, but I mean, it worked out in the end. So here I'm just going around the hair and just looking for places that might not have been colored or dyed properly. So just going through the hair and making sure that every piece of hair is covered in dye, because like I mentioned, I don't want any pieces which are blonde and some pieces which are burgundy. I want all of my hair to be burgundy. So it's very important just to go through the hair and make sure that every strand of hair is covered in dye. And as you can see, the hair is already changing color. Like, it actually has changed color at this point. So this is how you'll tell if the dye is working. You will see that the hair changes color. And I left this hair I left the hair to develop overnight. I just put it in a plastic and I left it overnight before washing it out. So this could be also why the hair really didn't dye the way I wanted it to. But like I mentioned, I did go ahead and use some plum and burgundy to make the hair a bit darker. So after leaving the hair overnight, I then washed that dye out. So I think this process here, you still have to wear gloves because I got a lot of dye on my nails and this changed the color of my nails, which wasn't that great. But yeah, I washed the dye out using some warm water. And when you wash the dye out, you shouldn't use any shampoo because the shampoo may remove the color of the dye. So if you are coloring your hair yourself, I would advise you to use some conditioner instead of shampoo to wash the hair out. And every time you wash your hair that is colored, use conditioner as opposed to shampoo. So the INECTO box dyes come with some conditioner in the package, and this is the conditioner that I used on the hair, as well as some Tresemme. I think it's the Tresemme conditioner. I'm just not sure of the name, but I will add the name to, I'll put the name in the description box, but it is the conditioner that comes in the white bottle. So yeah, I just condition all of the hair. Make sure that the conditioner is on all of the strands of the hair, and this will make sure that your wig doesn't look too matted or it doesn't look too dry, because I mean it went through a lot. Like the bleaching and the coloring can sort of like mess up the hair a bit. So when you condition the hair, you're just putting back that moisture into the hair. So yeah, it's very, very important. And like I mentioned, if you are coloring your hair or if you do have colored hair, always wash your colored hair using conditioner as opposed to shampoo, because shampoo can remove the color from your hair. So I'm just combing the hair through, making sure that the conditioner is on every strand of the hair. And then I left the conditioner to sit in the hair for some time before washing it out and leaving it to dry. So yeah, this is how the hair turned out after I dyed the hair again using Plum and Burgundy. So this is the color that I actually wanted to achieve initially. And yeah, this is the finished look. As you can see, it looks much better than it did in the beginning. But yeah, I know I could have done better, but I'm actually quite satisfied with how the hair turned out. It's a really cool color. And yeah, I did straighten it. I used some got2b glue spray just to lay it and make it flat at the top. And yeah, I really hope you guys found this video insightful. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and you can ask me anything in the comment section down below. See you next time. Bye guys.